Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. The following story is a work of fiction created for atmospheric and entertainment purposes. With that being said, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. Il Padre sin sombra. I was already half asleep when the bus engine sputtered and died on the narrow ribbon of road that threads through the Durango Mountains. Night pressed against the windows like wet cloth, and the distant pines were only suggestion, darker shapes inside a larger dark. The driver cursed softly, opened the door, and stepped out to wrestle with a toolbox whose clatter sounded strangely hollow in the thin air. Inside, no one spoke. The seven passengers shared that mute hush, unique to stranded travelers who understand there is nothing to do but wait. I remember thinking I should phone someone. My editor, perhaps, but the signal bar lay empty, a dead tooth on the screen. Instead, I stared at my reflection in the glass. A tired journalist on an assignment already overdue, face lit ghost pale by the emergency aisle light. Behind that faint image, the forest swayed, branches rasping together as if rehearsing a story none of us would want to hear told aloud. Time stretched. The driver's silhouette bent and straightened, tools flashing in and out of a flashlight's beam. The engine refused each metallic plea. Then, through the windshield, a shape appeared on the road ahead, a figure walking toward us with deliberate calm, as though summoned by our misfortune. He wore a black cassock that brushed the asphalt, buttons catching the moon like pinheads of frost. A priest, I assumed, though the collar was hidden beneath a charcoal scarf. More curious was the fact that the man cast no shadow in the beam of the worklight. The dazzle fell around him, carving a hollow where a silhouette should live, leaving only road and dust. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. Still nothing. Perhaps the angle, I told myself. Perhaps fatigue. He greeted the driver first, soft words lost to our windows, then lifted a hand in blessing. It seemed a gentle gesture, sincere and practiced. The driver straightened, shoulders easing as if an immense knot had been cut loose. Moments later, the engine roared alive with a single turn of the key. A small miracle. When the priest climbed aboard to offer the same benediction to the rest of us, no one objected. His eyes were the color of warm rain on stone, kind and utterly unhurried. One by one, passengers inclined their heads beneath his palm. Each felt a light touch, heard a whisper too low to catch, and sat back wearing the dim, puzzled smile of someone who has misplaced an important thought but cannot recall what it was. At last he stood over me. "May comfort follow you," he murmured. His voice was smooth but oddly distant, as though spoken across water. I nodded. Politeness outweighed doubt. His hand hovered a breath above my crown. There was no heat, no chill, only a faint tug, like a thread eased loose from a tight weave. He moved on, blessing the last passenger, then stepped lightly back onto the roadside. The driver shut the door, engaged the gears, and we rolled forward as though the breakdown were a rumor that never truly happened. I slept. When I woke, the seat beside me was empty, though I was certain a woman had been sitting there, a tourist with a guidebook of faded maps. I searched for her among the rows, but saw only strangers whose faces I half recognized and half did not, like dreams thinning at dawn. I let it go. The mind plays tricks in the blue hour. We reached the next town by morning. I disembarked, shouldered my bag, and immediately forgot the name of my hotel. It was printed on the reservation, tucked in my coat, yet the letters blurred each time I tried to hold them in memory, as if the ink itself were dissolving. I laughed it off, blamed exhaustion, but a splinter of unease lodged behind the ribs and would not shift. Durango's mountain towns cling to cliffs like barnacles, streets coiling upward in tight switchbacks. I spent the day interviewing locals about folklore for my article, recording stories of miners gone mad, of phantom lights in abandoned shafts. Every conversation ended with mention of a priest who walked the roads at night. They called him El Padre Sin Sombra, the father without a shadow. Some swore he was an angel. Others avoided the topic as one avoids loose stones on a precipice. No one could describe his face for long. They said details slipped the mind like water through a sieve. I played back my audio notes that evening and found entire segments missing, blank stretches where voices should reside. In their place, wind, distant chimes, my own breathing growing rapid as I rewound again and again. I checked memory space, plenty remained. The recorder was flawless. The absence was not. That night, I dreamt of a candlelit nave flooded to the knees. Pews floated like coffins. At the altar, the priest in black raised a lantern, but cast no outline against its glow. Instead, the light carved silhouettes from everyone else. Parishioners with heads bowed, mouths open in silent prayer, yet each shadow was subtly wrong. Proportions stretched, limbs tapering to impossible thinness. When I looked down, my own darkness crawled along the water like ink spilled across glass. I woke with the taste of river silt on my tongue. Days blurred. Names of interviewees slipped away minutes after we parted. Street signs twisted into unreadable knots. I began writing notes on my forearm, the date, the town, my hotel room number. Each evening I discovered older notes washed to gray smudges I could no longer decipher. Memory, I realized, was unraveling. It did not vanish all at once, but frayed from the edges, fine threads loosening into the wind. In their place settled a hush, not silence exactly, but a muffled stillness like snowfall in a library of open books. I decided to confront the priest. Reportage demanded sources. Locals claimed he walked the ridge road each twilight, blessing travelers who broke down or wandered off trails, so I rented a rusted motorbike and rode until dusk bled into a bruise over the peaks. The engine coughed, stalled. Of course it did, exactly where the moonlight cut the asphalt like silver wire. I waited beside the bike, flashlight dimmed, letting the dark seep into my lungs. Soon footsteps materialized from the hush, measured, as though keeping time with a hymn no longer sung. He emerged, cassock whispering against gravel. Up close he looked unchanged. Ageless skin, rainstone eyes, the faintest thread of a smile. No shadow, none at all. "I need answers," I said, voice hoarse in the thin cold. He inclined his head as though I had asked the weather. "What is lost was never yours," he replied. The words fluttered like moths around a single candle between us. "Memories," I insisted. "You're taking them." He watched me with sorrow, genuine, deep as old rivers. "I do not take," he said. "I receive what is offered." My laugh cracked the stillness. Who would offer their past? "Those who wish to move without weight," he answered. His hand lifted, palm toward my chest. "Your pockets overflow." I felt then the heft of everything carried. Broken promises, unfinished articles, a mother's final voicemail still unplayed, the echo of arguments I rehearsed alone. They hung inside me like stones in a well. For an instant I wanted them gone, craved the lightness he promised. He stepped closer. I saw at last the trick of his form. The black cloth did not merely swallow light, it fed on definition. Edges blurred where shapes should end. If he possessed a face, it was the memory of a face, contingent on my need to see one. Staring felt like trying to fix smoke to a wall. "The blessing is forgetting," I whispered. "The blessing is being forgotten," he corrected gently, "to loosen the tether that drags through every hour." His voice softened further. "Will you unburden what hurts you?" The mountain wind held its breath. Behind me, the road fell away into ravine, a black throat waiting to swallow headlights that would never come. Ahead, the priest, patient as dust on an altar, palms still raised, and inside my skull a tilt, subtle, seismic, toward release. I thought of the tourist who vanished from the seat beside mine, the guidebook closing on air. Did she feel this glide toward nothing? Was she at peace in the hollow where memory once lived? I shook my head. "No," I said, though it sounded like someone else speaking. "I'll keep what's mine, even the broken pieces." For a moment, sadness flickered across his maybe face. "Then heavy you shall remain," he murmured. He turned away. With each step, the world seemed to absorb him. First, the outline of shoulders dissolved, then arms, torso, until only a suggestion of movement remained, like wind tracing wheat. Then that too was gone. Yet the absence felt inhabited, as though the road now carried an echo of his presence, a gap shaped precisely like mercy. The bike started on the first kick. I rode back, swimming in fog of half-remembered lyrics my father once hummed while fixing gutters. A childhood dog's name eluded me the entire descent. But the rest, the arguments, the guilt, they settled heavier than before, as if defiantly anchoring themselves against future theft. I finished the article, though reading it later felt like skimming a stranger's notes. Publication day, my byline looked unfamiliar. Readers praised its haunting quality, its dreamlike omissions, They said the silences carried more weight than the words. Months passed. Durango slipped from headlines, but at random times, boarding a subway, stirring coffee, I catch myself forgetting where I am headed. I taste river silt. Shadows near my feet lengthen, thinning at the edges until they almost vanish. In the glint of a passing window, I sometimes see a man in black walking just behind my reflection, though when I turn, there is only the crowd. On sleepless nights, I imagine those he has blessed drifting through life like pages torn from books, free of beginnings and endings, held together only by breeze. Perhaps they float lighter. Perhaps they drift toward some tenderness we who remember cannot reach. But memory is stubborn, it knots itself anew. I keep a journal with pages bound in red twine. Every dawn, I write my name, the date, a single sentence of intention. Some mornings I wake to see the ink has paled, letters thinning as if scraped away by tiny, careful blades. I rewrite them deeper, pressing until the nib scratches the wood beneath. I have not seen the priest again, yet roadside stories multiply. An old trucker finds himself inexplicably bereft of a decade of grief after a midnight breakdown. A newlywed couple forgets a vicious argument that once threatened divorce. Each recounts a figure in black. Each insists he had no shadow. And when I ask if the relief was worth the cost, their eyes glide away, focus blurred as mirrors fogged by breath. I close my notebook, lock it in a box, hide the key where only daylight can reach. Tomorrow I will remember less. Tomorrow I will remember that I wish to remember. The burden remains mine to shoulder, stones in the well, but they echo, and the echo is proof I am still here. Far up the mountain road, somewhere between the hush of pine needles and the hush inside the skull, a figure walks, patient, inviolate, offering blessings like open hands filled with snow. When he meets the next stranger, perhaps that stranger will offer everything, and perhaps the priest will finally cast a shadow, borrowing the outline their memory leaves behind. Until then, keep watch on your silhouette in lamplight. If it begins to thin at the edges, if it trembles like water unsettled by distant thunder, step back from the road. Hold tight to the names that built you. Recite them like prayers. People, places, sorrows, loves, especially the sorrows. They weigh the pockets, yes, but they also keep the wind from carrying you off the map. And should you find yourself stranded in those mountains, engine silent, night crowding close, remember, kindness is sometimes the neatest severing of all, and no blessing comes free of its receipt. Listen for footsteps that claim no ground, voices that travel without echo, and the hush that expands after a stranger's hand hovers above your brow. If the silence watching back appears merciful, recall that mercy is the first act of forgetting, and forgetting is the first act of vanishing. The road ahead is narrow. Keep both hands on the wheel. Drive with the weight of what came before seated firmly beside you, a necessary passenger whose shadow proves the headlights still know your name. There is a bend in the road that I avoid now, a sharp curve in the Durango hills, just past the mile marker with no number, where the air is too still and the trees look away. I took it once again, foolishly, thinking I could trace back the scene, recover whatever thread had unraveled that night. But when I rounded the turn, there was no shoulder, no gravel patch where the bike had stalled, no work light, no memory, only smooth blacktop and a silence too clean to be honest. I left a small offering there anyway, an old photograph, water warped and curled from the pages of a forgotten wallet. In the image, a child clutches a red balloon. I can't say whose child it is, but my hand trembled when I let it go, and something in the trees sighed back. The blessing was not a curse, it was a decision I never made. A decision that kept unfolding long after the priest vanished, and it never truly stopped. I hear things now in quiet rooms. Not voices, nothing so dramatic, but something closer to suggestion. A breeze where there should be none. A pressure behind the eyes when I think too hard on a name I know I used to carry. The wind speaks in vowels, it finishes my sentences sometimes. And when I write too long without blinking, I look down to find the words have rearranged themselves. Paragraphs collapsed into blank lines, punctuation replaced by ellipses, as though waiting for the story to remember itself. I moved to the city after Durango, not out of fear, more out of instinct. Concrete remembers differently than mountain stone. It forgets with noise instead of silence. That suits me now. But even in the city, the signs return. A man praying outside the subway with no collection cup. A child who says no one cast a shadow when asked who helped them find their lost dog. A neighbor who forgets her own name each morning but remembers vividly a priest who whispered her headaches away. I began collecting these stories. They arrive without request. People feel the need to tell them, like confessions that burn behind the teeth. They sit across from me in coffee shops or park benches or late night buses, and they begin like this. There was someone kind, I think. Or, he didn't say much, but afterward I felt so light. Their eyes glaze a little when they try to recall his features. The same pattern every time, calm, distant, helpful, no shadow. One man said he felt the blessing most when he tried to remember his wife's name and couldn't. I think she died, he told me, but I'm not sad. Isn't that a blessing? He wept as he said it and smiled. I tried researching deeper into parish records, mission logs, even old censuses. No father matching the description. No man with those eyes. No photographs. Only mentions in local legends, word of mouth tales from ranchers and drivers and hikers who stepped off trail and came back changed. I found a convent once, nestled deep between two villages, cloistered behind ivy-covered stone. An elder nun there, face like folded parchment, told me the stories went back generations. She called him El Padre del Olvido, the father of forgetting. I asked her if he was real. She looked at me for a long time, as though weighing how much I already knew. Then she said, "You don't ask if fire is real once you've seen what it leaves behind." She gave me a candle, white wax, unlit. For when memory becomes too heavy, she said. But remember, light it only if you're willing to let go of the weight and the shape it gave you. The candle sits on my desk now. I move it sometimes, from drawer to shelf to closet and back again. But I haven't lit it. Not yet. Because despite it all, despite the way I sometimes forget why I entered a room, or how I know the taste of eucalyptus on skin, or what my brother's laughter sounded like, I still hold on to something. A single grain of clarity, a decision made on a mountain road. There is a weight in remembering, yes, but there is shape in it too. Shape gives structure, structure gives shadow, and I will not walk without one. I keep a list now. Not of names, those go too quickly, but of feelings, moments, the way cold tile feels under bare feet at midnight, the sound of beans boiling on the stove while rain hammers the roof, the laugh of a friend who once told me I was impossible to forget. These are my anchors, and though the tide tries, though the pull is steady and kind and oh so understandable, I resist. But some days the thought crosses my mind, would it be so terrible to rest? To unhook the memories that cling like bramble, to let go of the old hurts, the old shapes, the reasons? I don't light the candle. Instead, I sit beside it and whisper the names of people I've lost over and over like prayer beads between the teeth, because even forgetting demands ritual. And then, one night, there was a knock. Not the hollow rattle of neighbors or the bark of packages left behind, but a soft, deliberate knock. 3 taps, like a breath exhaled through wood. I stood still, heart slow and heavy. The air had a weight to it. My shadow on the floor stretched long, unnaturally long. I opened the door. The hallway was empty. Of course it was. Only the carpeted stillness of an apartment complex after midnight, only the scent of dust. But just past the elevator, near the exit sign, I saw something shift. Not a person. Not really. More like an absence moving through presence, a gap walking across light. No sound, no footsteps, just that sense, that terrible, calm sense, that someone had remembered I was still carrying too much. I closed the door, sat at the desk, lit no candle, and waited for the air to settle again. The blessing waits always. It is patient, kind, it does not chase, it invites, and all it asks in return is everything. So I keep writing, filling pages with what I dare not forget, not because I believe memory will save me, but because memory is the thread I've chosen not to cut. Maybe that's all any of us can do, choose where to place the knife. I have met many now who walk lighter than before, who drift just slightly out of step with the world, faces pleasant, eyes fogged with peace. I envy them sometimes, but I also grieve for them, because in their calm, in their relief, I see an outline that never quite matches the shape that used to live there. And when they pass beneath streetlights, nothing moves at their feet. Their steps are soundless. Their names are soft as ash. And when they speak of who helped them, they always say the same thing. No one cast a shadow. I've begun to wonder if remembering is enough, if scratching truths into notebooks and reciting names in the dark can truly anchor me, or if I've only delayed the unraveling. Some mornings I wake with the taste of copper, no dreams, just the faint awareness that something was taken while I slept. Not violently, not cruelly, just lifted, the way fog lifts from a field, slowly and without permission. I thumb through my journal then. The red twine grows frayed where I've retied it too many times. Inside, the handwriting changes. Some entries are sharp, etched with intent. Others are faint, as though written underwater. Some days the pen doesn't work at all, and I trace the letters in invisible ink just to feel the motion. There's a name in there I no longer recognize. A name circled 3 times, underlined once. The page smells like lilac. I don't know why that makes me want to cry. I carry the journal with me everywhere now. In the back pocket when I shop, clutched in my coat on walks. I once left it on the bathroom counter for 30 minutes, and when I came back, 6 pages were missing, torn clean, without residue, as though the paper had never been there. The building's security footage showed nothing, just me entering, then leaving. The tape itself jumped twice, 2 flickers. In both, my reflection in the mirror did not move. That night, I dreamed of a church with no doors, its windows stretched higher than they should. Inside, a sermon was underway. The pews were empty, but shadows lined them like obedient congregants, sitting perfectly still. No mouths, no eyes, just outlines. Listening. And at the pulpit, the priest stood silent, hands folded, no voice needed. His silence was the sermon. It said everything. When I woke, my pillow was damp. My hand clutched the journal so tightly the twine left grooves in my fingers, and for a moment, just a moment, I could not remember who I was. The feeling passed. I wrote my name again, deeper this time, tearing the paper slightly. Then I copied down what I could remember of the dream. The page curled at the corners as though rejecting it, but I kept writing. Something changed after that night. A frequency almost. Like tuning into a radio station just on the edge of reception. It comes clearer now when I'm alone. When I pause on quiet streets, when I walk through fog, I start noticing the others. Not just those who've been blessed, but those who are becoming, the in between. They're not gone yet, not entirely, but they move differently, lighter, not carefree, but unburdened in an unnatural way. Their footsteps are measured, their smiles are serene, their conversations loop, phrases repeated like songs with one chorus. And when you ask them a difficult question, one that roots itself in pain or love or shame, they blink, then say, I don't think that matters anymore. I've followed one such man through the park, watched him stare at a tree for 17 minutes, just stood there, eyes glazed as if waiting for it to speak. When I asked if he needed help, he turned slowly and said, I'm already past help, and it's beautiful. Another, a woman in a blue coat, visited the same bakery every day, ordered the same loaf, always the same. But when asked why she liked it, she smiled and said, I don't remember choosing this, but it feels correct. She cast no shadow when she stood beneath the awning. Only the outline of her shopping bag moved. I watched it for a long time. The priest doesn't always appear to them directly. Sometimes. Sometimes it's a dream. Sometimes a song they can't trace. Sometimes just a moment of silence so heavy it sinks into their bones. But when it's done, they're changed. They lose the sharpness of memory, but they also lose the sting. And I think maybe that's the offer. That's the mercy. To trade pain for peace, history for stillness, identity for silence. But I cannot take that trade. I think of all the ugly things I've done, all the regrets, the anger, but they are mine. They form the lattice that holds me up. Even the rot gives structure. I started writing letters to myself, sealed and hidden in places I won't think to check, behind the fridge, inside library books, taped under benches at bus stops. So if I wake one day and forget too much, I might find them again, read the scrawled truths of who I used to be, feel something, remember something. But what terrifies me most is this. Some of the letters I've found, I don't remember writing. The handwriting is mine, the phrasing familiar, but the memories inside, foreign. like reading someone else's confession in your own voice. One letter said, "You said yes, but you asked me to forget that part." Another simply read, "You lit the candle, then blew it out." I haven't. I swear I haven't. But the wax has burned lower. The wick blackened, slightly curled. I don't sleep easily anymore. Each night, I fight to stay conscious just a little longer, to hold on to the shape of myself before the veil slips, before the soft hands of forgetfulness come again to loosen the laces. But some nights I hear footsteps outside the window, a rhythm too calm to be threat, too slow to be human, just walking back and forth, waiting. I keep the journal open now while I sleep, a pen beside it in case something needs to be recorded, or in case someone else writes while I'm gone. This morning there was a new entry, not in my hand. It read, "You are doing well, but you are tired." Then beneath it, "It's okay to forget a little. The shape will remain." There was no date, but the ink was fresh, and a faint smell of river silt curled from the page. I think the priest is close again, maybe always has been, circling, waiting, not unkind, just patient. I don't hate him, I understand him in a way. He offers something that many long for, that I at times crave, but I also know what it costs. So tonight I'll sit by the candle again. I'll write my name, the date, and one memory, just one. Something small but sharp, a scar that proves the skin healed over something real. And I'll whisper it out loud, 3 times, so even if the pages vanish, even if the pen dries, the air might carry it, might remember for me. Because no matter how gentle his footsteps, no matter how soft his hand, no matter how sweet the weightlessness he offers, I will not give him my shadow. I will not let the silence take shape in my place. I was here. I remain. And I remember. It's raining tonight. Not hard, not loud, just a soft hiss on the window pane, steady and persistent like the sound of breath through teeth. I sit by the desk. The candle remains unlit. But I've placed matches beside it, just in case. There's a hum in the apartment. It comes from no device I can name. Not the fridge, not the vents, not the old wiring in the ceiling. It's lower, more constant, a pitch you feel in the throat before you hear it in the ears. I move from room to room, check locks I've already checked, draw curtains already drawn, but still, I feel it. That slow, widening presence, as though someone stands just behind me, patient as moss. The journal sits open. I read through older entries, the ones I can still understand. So many are beginning to shift. The ink fading from within, the letters thinning as if eroded from inside out. It's like the words themselves have grown tired of holding their shape. One entry says, "Do not follow the voice in the mirror." I don't remember writing it, but I remember the dream it refers to. I stood before a tall mirror, taller than me by 2 hands. The reflection wasn't wrong. It moved when I moved, blinked when I blinked, but its mouth was always a beat late to close, its eyes always a fraction too wide. In the dream, I leaned close, and it whispered, "He's in the hallway." I woke to the sound of footsteps, fading down the corridor. No one was there, but the scent of wax and pine lingered. I tore the page from the journal, burned it in the sink, the ash curled like dead leaves. Still, the whisper remains. I hear it sometimes when I pass mirrors now, even small ones, chrome faucets, the back of spoons, reflections that linger longer than they should. He doesn't speak in words anymore, not to me. Now it's silence that carries the meaning. Weighted silences, placed deliberately, like bookmarks in the air. The other day I found a second candle on my shelf, identical to the first, white wax, clean wick, but I never bought it. I would remember that. I placed it beside the first. They lean toward each other now, as though drawn together. And when I leave the room, I sometimes hear a soft tap, a clink of glass or ceramic, but there's nothing on the floor. I went outside today, just to breathe city air, to feel the noise against my skin, but the world felt muffled, as though padded. Even the sirens in the distance sounded underwater. I watched people pass, faces drawn, shoulders hunched against the mist. I watched their shadows on the pavement. Most were solid, definite, but not all. A man crossed the street ahead of me, briefcase in hand, wearing a coat far too heavy for spring. He looked ordinary, but his shadow flickered like a candle flame in wind, and for a moment, only a moment, it wasn't his. It was taller, broader at the shoulders, The head bowed in a different way. Then it snapped back. The man never noticed. I turned away. I don't know what that means, whether his forgetting has begun or whether something was simply trying it on. There's a part of me that wants to warn people, to cry out, to scrawl messages in alleyways, tape flyers to lampposts. If a priest in black offers you peace, ask the price. If he casts no shadow, do not follow. Remember, even the pain. But I know it won't work. People don't believe until they feel the hollow, until they taste the quiet, until they wake one day and realize their regrets are gone, and with them their shape. The blessing is gentle. So many will welcome it. I've heard from friends recently, old ones, voices I haven't heard in years. They call or email, cheerful, full of news, but when I bring up shared memories, trips we took, things we said, fights we had, they pause. Some laugh. I don't remember that at all, they say. It sounds like something I would have done, though. Others grow quiet. Like I've touched something fragile and distant. Their voices soften. Then they change the subject. I ask them if they've been out to the mountains. Some say yes, vaguely. Can't recall when. Years ago, maybe. Or recently. It's all a blur. One friend said she met a priest once, kind man. Helped her when her car broke down on a long road through hills. She laughed. I think I cried, she said, but I don't remember why. I didn't ask more, just wrote it down after the call, added it to the list. There are 23 names now, people I've known whose shadows feel thinner than before. And one name I found scribbled on a napkin in my own handwriting. A name I don't know. Marisol. No context, no surname, just that, underlined 3 times. I carry it in my pocket, hoping the shape of it in my hand might unlock something. So far, it hasn't. But sometimes I wake with the feeling of someone having just stepped out of the room, the smell of lilacs clinging to my clothes, a sense of something urgent left unsaid. The second candle is gone. I didn't move it. No one comes here, yet the shelf is bare. No wax residue, no dust outline, as if it was never there. I don't know if that means someone accepted the blessing or if something else is preparing. I tried to leave town once, boarded a train heading west, no destination in mind, just movement. But 2 stations in, I fell asleep, and when I woke, I was back where I started. Same platform, same bench, same pigeons pecking at the same crust of bread. The ticket in my pocket was blank, just a slip of white paper. He doesn't let me leave, not fully, not yet. Which means he's not done with me. Or maybe I'm not done with myself. The journal is almost full now, pages warped with ink, curled at the corners, some sections unreadable, others overwritten 3, 4, 5 times. I recite the contents aloud each night, just in case the words vanish while I sleep. Some part of me hopes they do. Another part watches the candle wick and wonders how it would smell when lit, whether the smoke would carry anything away. But I have made my choice. I will carry the weight, even as the thread frays, even as the silence gathers at the windows, patient and polite, even as he waits at the edge of dreams, because someone has to remember. Someone has to speak the names. Write the truths, trace the shadows, and remind the world what they once meant. Even if I forget my own name, even if the journal vanishes, even if the priest himself stands one day at my door, hand raised in blessing, mouth full of kindness, I will say no, again, and again and again, because this pain is mine, and I will not trade it, not for peace, not for silence, not for forgetting. He can take the words, he can fray the ink, he can unspool the years like film burned by light, but he will not take the shape I've made from what I've endured. He will not take my shadow. Tonight, I opened the journal and found the final page torn, not removed, just torn. A jagged wound across the bottom half, as though something had been written and then violently unwritten. The top still bears a date, yesterday's, in my own hand. Below it, the words, I saw him again, but not in the way I expected. And then the tear. I don't remember writing it, but my hand aches like I did, a slow soreness in the wrist, a phantom tension between the knuckles. Like I gripped the pen too tightly in fear of forgetting mid-sentence. I checked the bin. No scraps, no curled fragments of the missing page, just dust and an old train ticket without print. I want to believe this is still my life, that I am the author of these words, this resistance, that I chose to carry the weight. But doubt grows in the corners now. It waits where the candlelight would reach if I ever lit it. There are scratches on my window. From the outside, not claw marks, no dramatics, just fine lines. Etchings. Symbols, maybe. They weren't there yesterday. I press my palm to the glass. It's cold. Colder than it should be, even with the heat running. Outside, the fog moves oddly. Too smooth, too purposeful. It doesn't roll, it slides. And in the thick of it, a silhouette, standing perfectly still. He's far, but not far enough. Tall, still. No shape to his edges, like his coat is made of smoke. I blink. He's gone. Back at the desk, I find something on the journal. Pressed into the spine, a single pine needle. Sharp, dry, clean. I haven't left the city in months. There are no pines here. The second candle has returned. It sits beside the first, wick intact, untouched, but this time it's warm, as if just placed there. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know how many times I've written that sentence, but it feels necessary. A ritual, a line in the sand, even if the tide comes faster each night. I receive a letter today. No sender. No address. The handwriting on the envelope looks like mine, but sharper. More patient. Inside one line, you already said yes, but you can still hold on. I don't know what to do with that. I don't remember saying yes, but the candle is shorter than it used to be. The wax marked by a single drip that trails down the side, hardened in mid-fall. I've begun to talk to the shadows in my apartment, not out loud, just glances, nods, acknowledgments. I think it matters to be seen, even by the things that don't reply, especially by them. When I shower, the steam clings longer than it should. It doesn't drift toward the vent, it hovers. And sometimes in the fogged mirror, I see handprints that aren't mine. Larger. Pressed with fingers too long, too even. They fade before I can trace them, but they return. Each time. I think he's getting closer. Not to hurt me, I don't believe that, but to offer again, to remind me the door remains open, that peace is a breath away. But peace is a closing, and I want to remain open, even if it hurts, even if it tears, even if it costs me everything. I found an old voicemail on my phone. The date is blank. No number. Just a timestamp that reads, in it, a voice I don't know whispers, "You left the gate open." Then silence. Then breath. I deleted it. It returned the next day. Same time, same message. Now it plays on its own sometimes, when I sleep. The sound wakes me. The breath, always the breath, as though someone is standing over me, waiting for my eyes to open. I started keeping lights on in every room. They flicker, one by one, as if tested, checked, considered. Sometimes I hear the hallway creak at night, footsteps not heavy enough to be a person, not light enough to be plumbing, just deliberate. I haven't opened the door. Not since the knock, but I feel him on the other side. Like a presence kneeling, head bowed, listening for the moment I falter. But I haven't. Not tonight. I write in the journal with a fresh pen. The ink is thicker, harder to smudge. I press deeper, carve the letters in bold strokes. And I write, I choose pain because it belongs to me. I choose memory because it hurts. I choose to stay broken because it means I am real. There's a knock. Soft. 3 times. Same rhythm. Same breath between taps. I don't move. I whisper my name 3 times, not aloud, but into the marrow. I feel it echo back. That's enough. The knock doesn't come again, but I hear the footsteps walking away, slow, regretful, kind. The second candle is gone again. This time I think it's gone for good. The first remains. The matchbox is empty. I never lit it. Maybe that matters. Maybe that's why he still waits, because there's still a chance I'll say yes. But tonight I remember the smell of wet pavement in spring, the sound of my mother humming through the walls, the feel of my first scar under the skin. And I remember the face of someone I loved once, her name still faint, still mine, and the way she looked at me when I said goodbye even though we didn't know it was the last time. That ache is holy. That sorrow has shape. And so I close the journal for now. Set it beneath the floorboard where the light can't touch it. Wrap it in cloth. Whisper to it as I tuck it away. You are the proof. You are what I am. You are what I chose. And above all, you are not for him. The candle stays unlit. The priest stays waiting. The silence stays hungry. But I am still here. I cast a shadow, and I remember. Gray dawn creeps over the sill, flooding the room with the thin color of old silver. The candle sits untouched, the matchbox still hollow. I breathe in the chill and watch my shadow stretch true across the floorboards. Beyond the window, the street is empty, except for a last swirl of fog. In its center stands the priest, hands folded, head bowed as though in prayer. No traffic passes, no bird sings. He lifts his gaze, and for the first time, I think I see sorrow, gentle, regretful, as if he knows the door between us has closed for good. I raise my palm, not in welcome, not in dismissal, but in recognition of what we've shared. The fog thins, lightens, carries him backward until he melts into the morning glare. I wait, counting heartbeats, but he does not return. The hush that follows is only weather, no longer a sermon. I open the journal to the torn place and write one final line beneath the ragged edge. The offering was declined. The pen scratches deep, tearing a groove that will not fade. When I close the cover, the binding sighs, yet holds. The candle, I decide, deserves an ending of its own. I snap the wick with my fingernails and drop it into the trash, burying it beneath shredded bills and yesterday's coffee grounds. A small, decisive burial. No smoke, no fragrance, no forgetting. Outside, the city wakes. Car horns, voices, the clatter of a shop gate rolling up. I shoulder my coat, tuck the journal inside, and step into the light. The weight is real. The ache is real, but every ache casts shape, and every shape casts shadow. I walk on, memory heavy in my pockets, and the morning keeps my name.